Hello everyone, I hope you're all keeping well, healthy and happy. In this video I'm going to talk about the endgame for the United States and for the people of America, because for decades now there has been an agenda at play, a plan that was put in place long before you were born, most of you were born at least, that has brought us to this end point, this precipice, this edge of the cliff. What am I talking about? Well, if you take a look at people's lives today, most people's lives, what are they? Are they human beings or are they humans doing? There's a question for you. Well, they're humans doing, and why are they doing? Who are they doing it for? Right? There's a question. Most people were debt slaves. Okay? They were slaves to the national debt, to corporate debt, to banking debt. That is their life in a nutshell. And governments have been increasing the national debt year upon year. It's ballooned to $28 trillion now for the US national debt. $28 trillion. That is unpayable. But what it did was to turn human beings into a sort of a battery that is used up and then thrown on the scrap heap. Get as much out of you as they can, and then forget about you. You see, that's the game, that's the nature of the thing that was constructed. It's an artificial construction. But because people bought into it, it became a reality. A terrifying reality, but it was a reality, and it is a reality. You see, banks only value you for as long as you continue to pay your debts. Governments only value you for as long as you continue to pay your debts and do what you're told. And corporations only value you for as long as you are a consumer. Other than that, to these power brokers that have all these branches of influence in all these arenas, you have no value. And it's not just the financial realm in which they reign. Take a look at your civil liberties for a second. The right to free speech is being taken away from you little by little, inch by inch, every day. Okay, by governments, by corporations. You've got strange draconian laws being implemented, hate speech laws, this law, that law, motions being passed through parliaments and Congress. And then you've got other problems, such as the right to privacy being taken away from you. And that happens too, right? What privacy have you got left now that these clandestine agencies, these deep state government apparatus, can spy on you 24/7 all through your life? Where is your right to privacy? It's gone. And there's a myriad of other rights that are being trampled on as well. Okay? All of this is happening and has happened. And how did we get here? We got here because most people spent their life being ignorant. They chose ignorance over knowledge. They chose to stay asleep to reality. Or They fed themselves on a steady diet of false narratives, false paradigms, whether it's the political narratives which exist, the false dialectic, left versus right, whether it's the mainstream media's narratives, which are partly political, and then you have these other programmed ideas that are put into people's heads of how they should be, who they should be, what they should be. They've got those narratives running through them. So basically what you have is a population of brain-dead zombies, for the most part. And they chose that. That's what's brought us here. And if what I'm saying terrifies you, it should. Because the question at this point is, what happens now? And see, a lot of people don't want to ask that question because it's too scary. What's going to happen next? Well, I'm going to tell you. But in order to understand it, we have to refer to a video that was released by the Pentagon in 2016. This video was obtained by The Intercept, which is an online publication, and they published it on the 13th of October 2016. The video itself is called Megacities, Urban Future, The Emerging Complexity. Now, it's a 5-minute video that has been used at the Pentagon's Joint Special Operations University. The video states that all that stands between this coming chaos and the people of the world is the US Army. And there's a distinct focus on the United States. And you'll see what I'm talking about as we get into this. I'll be including the video, by the way, at the end of this video, my video. Once I've finished speaking, you'll be able to view this video in its entirety to understand and see for yourself what I am speaking about. Now, according to the film, megacities are complex systems where people and structures are compressed together in ways that defy both our understanding of city planning and military doctrine. These are the future breeding grounds, incubators, and launching pads for adversaries and hybrid threats. The film was used as part of an advanced special operations course that was offered at JSOU for a lesson on the emerging threat. JSOU is operated by US Special Operations Command. Just as an aside, by the way, megacities are by definition urban areas with a population of 10 million people or more. The film mentions criminal networks, substandard infrastructure, religious and ethnic tensions, impoverishment, slums, open landfills, overburdened sewers, and a growing mass of unemployed as things that the US Army will have to deal with. Now here's a question for you. Why would the US Army have to deal with unemployment or the unemployed? That's not their department. But the very fact that we are seeing everything that is outlined in this film should give you pause for concern. The list that we've just gone through details and accompanies photos of garbage-choked streets, masked rock throwers, and riot cops battling protesters. Well, there we go again with the right to free speech being taken away, because that's obviously what cops should be doing, right? The narration states that growth will magnify the increasing separation between rich and poor. It's interesting. You would think that growth would benefit everyone. Apparently, economic growth will only benefit the rich. The scene then cuts to New York City, looking down from a high vantage point on 3rd Avenue, depicting a lunchtime crowd dining on $57 NY cut sirloin steaks at Smith and Wolenski. The video then states that tomorrow's vast urban jungles will be replete with subterranean labyrinths governed by their own social code and rule of law, with digital domains that facilitate sophisticated illicit economies. Now, this is obviously something that the military-industrial complex frowns upon, since they want you to be a debt slave to the state, digitized economies, digital money. Other forms of digital money, they obviously don't like that, they don't want that. Now, the next little bit is going to knock your socks off. A key phrase used in this video, in this dystopian vision that they've detailed and outlined, is drain the swamp. Drain the swamp. This same phrase was used with great frequency by a presidential candidate last year. Do you remember that? People still chant it today. Drain the swamp. This is an example of hypnotic persuasion. It's hypnotic persuasion. If you don't know the term, look it up. Persuasion is a system of influence in order to embed an idea in people's minds. And who is the swamp? Well, the public assumed that the swamp was all of this corruption and corrupt politicians. No. According to this video from the Pentagon, you are the swamp. The people. The American people are the swamp. Now, that should disturb you. The film ends with a stark warning. This is the world of our future. The threat is clear. Now that's pretty bloody ominous, isn't it? So this thing with draining the swamp, well, let's take a look at Trump's presidency, because Donald Trump, of course, popularized this phrase. From the very beginning, was this a ploy to mislead the American public? Well, we know from the WikiLeaks documents that the DNC deliberately manipulated both the Democratic primaries and attempted to run Trump as a Pied Piper candidate against Hillary Clinton. Right? And with Trump's recent foreign policy decisions and an administration full of neocons, warhawks and compromised officials, the question has to be raised. Why did he appoint them? After all, he is the one that appointed them, not some magic sky daddy, right? Trump appointed them. People like Gary Cohn, Dina Powell, McMaster, Tillerson, Haley, Kushner, his son-in-law, all of whom are very seriously compromised individuals. So, there are serious questions about all of this. Very serious questions. But this isn't new. You see, the military-industrial complex began this program back in 2008. The US Department of Defense launched something called the Minerva Initiative. The Minerva Initiative linked to and provided grants to universities in exchange for providing social science studies on areas of strategic importance to US national security policy. That includes the economy, by the way. Their stated goal is to improve the DoD's basic understanding of the social, cultural, behavioral, and political forces that shape the world. Its actual goal is to come up with ways of dealing with social unrest, especially within the United States. As of 2015, the Minerva Initiative's priority research areas fall within the following 4 categories: identity, influence and mobilization, contributors to societal resilience and change, power and deterrence, and innovations in national security, conflict and cooperation. On June the 12th, 2014, The Guardian newspaper in the UK published an article titled "Pentagon Preparing for Mass Civil Breakdown. Social Science is being militarized to target peaceful activists and protest movements." Among the projects that were financed by the Minerva Initiative was a US Air Force Office of Scientific Research based study on the dynamics of social movement mobilization and contagions. Within the scope of that study, it stated outright that Twitter posts and conversations were to be examined to identify individuals mobilized in a social contagion. In 2008, the American Anthropological Association cautioned that research will only be funded when it supports the Pentagon's agenda. Professor David Price, the author of Weaponizing Anthropology, Social Science in the Service of the State, said, "Minerva is farming out the piecework of empire." That's a very important and serious statement from a very clever and remarkably clued-in person. Because Professor Price previously exposed how the Pentagon's Human Terrain Systems program embedded social scientists in military field operations within the United States. So this is all a military operation, is what I'm trying to get across to you. And what is the end goal of this? Well, basically, what is going to end up happening, as you'll no doubt see from the video itself, but what will end up happening is that the United States will be sealed in. The people of the United States will be sealed in. What were the things that Donald Trump said during his campaign? Right? We had the drain the swamp thing, and I've just detailed that that was very prevalent in the video. We also had build the wall. Now, walls can be fantastic things. Walls can be great things because they can keep people out that shouldn't be there. But guess what else walls can be used for? But keep in mind, the wall is just an idea, right? Guess what else walls can be used for? They can be used to keep people in. To imprison them, de facto. Then what happens next? Well, I think you can guess. All the people that serve no purpose to the corporations, to the government, or to banks will be systematically eradicated. That is the end game, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end game. I'm not fear-mongering here. I am telling you factually true information. This is what's coming. This is the oncoming storm. Now, you can ignore this if you like. You can dislike what I'm saying if you like. That is your prerogative. That is your right. But it still remains the absolute objective truth. So if you're in the United States right now and you have the means to escape, I would strongly recommend you do so before it becomes too late. The deep state already has control over the Trump government. That much is certain. Perhaps they had control of him from the beginning. But the point is that you need to act in your best interests, your individual best interests right now. If you're able to escape, escape. Because what comes next won't be pleasant. See, they want, the people that are the real power brokers behind the scenes, and I know who they are, but they want conflict. They want American citizens to be at each other's throats, tearing each other apart. And what did we see in Berkeley over the weekend? The far left and the far right tearing each other apart violently. The left recently, I was analysing some of the intelligence reports on this thing that happened. The left recently has been angling for upping the game. They're trying to get their hands on guns and other various weapons. In the actual Berkeley, I don't think I should even call them protests, they used M80s, which are explosive devices. They're sort of fireworks, but nonetheless, they can kill someone. And they don't seem to realize, these radical leftists, these far left lunatics, that the far right is way better equipped, and there are some very serious and dangerous people on the other side of that spectrum, at the extreme end of it. And they're armed with M60 machine guns. Right? And pipe bombs. See, I've read the reports on these people as well, on the extremes, on the fringes. Those are the people that are going to end up kicking off a civil war. But there's already the conflict now. And it will expand and increase. Meanwhile, to distract you from that, there are all these foreign interventions going on now under the Trump administration. Have you noticed that? What do you think that's all about? Things that could very well kick off World War III. Right? So these are unsafe times, is what I'm saying. They're unsafe times for anyone who has a thinking mind. And I don't want you to walk around in fear all your life. What I want you to do is think critically about what governments are doing, and not to be blind, not to put the blinders on and put yourself in that left-right paradigm. You should be trying to bridge the divide, to reach compromise with people that are centrists, because there's more centrists than anything else. There are less extremists in the world and more people in the centre of any political dialogue or debate. But the power brokers don't want that. They want to polarize you. They want to polarize you politically. They want to polarize you ethnically and religiously. That's what they're looking for. It's what they're hoping for. And they are succeeding in this. Because again, most people are too dumb to work this out. So this is the thing. But that's where the United States is heading. That's the end game. You know, people joke about death camps and what have you, but see, these things have really happened through human history. Whether it's Stalin having killed, you know, over millions, or Mao with his Great Leap Forward, or Hitler. You combine every death that communism, for example, has caused, and it goes well over 100 million by most estimates. You take a look at far-right governments that have usurped power, and you see, again, death and killing and civil liberties being destroyed. It's the horseshoe theory, right? At both extreme ends, they're far closer to each other's positions than people realize. The far left and the far right, right? But the power brokers want you to remain in that enclosed space of thinking. So you've got to avoid that at all costs if you're going to avoid civil war. But here's the problem. Okay, so maybe all of you people that watch my videos, maybe all of you subscribers and viewers are clued in. How many subscribers and viewers have I got? A few thousand? How many people watch the video? Maybe a few thousand again? 100,000 at most over the years? Do you know how many people there actually are in America alone? Do you know how many people there are in the world? See, people like Alex Jones, people like InfoWars, they don't understand this. They're fake opposition. They're the ones, by the way, that gave you Donald Trump's neocon administration. By promoting that man, by promoting him. But let's put that aside. Let's say, okay, some of the information he presents is really good. Okay, fine. So you take that on board. Then what? How many viewers does he have? How many subscribers does he have? A couple of million? The number of people on this earth is 7.2 billion. So that's not even a drop in the ocean. It's not even 10%. Okay? What you've got is a population right across this world that is asleep to the truth, asleep to reality, asleep to what the hell's happening to them. Too intellectually dumbed down to realize it. That's what's going on. You've got people going off on ego trips that have done no work on themselves, either psychologically or mentally, that are being hailed as leaders. So that's what's happening out there. And inside the United States, you've got the same problem. People that just don't want to apply critical thinking. That just follow authority wherever it goes. I mean, my goodness, we saw this with the Stanford prison experiment. Philip Zimbardo's experiment on this. We also saw it with Stanley Milgram's experiment, didn't we? Where people just blindly follow authority. If you've got the symbols of power, people will follow that person. That is what happens. Because people are very, very susceptible to these things, and they don't realize it. Persuasion, persuasion, hypnosis, hallucinations. Most people are suffering from these things, and they don't know. Because again, the power brokers are very well versed in all of these things, in all of these subject areas. They've studied them intensely. I've studied them intensely. We know of what we speak. And it's a case of knowing how your enemy thinks. Right? That's why you've got to get clued up on this stuff as well. But most people don't want to do that, don't want to make the effort. And that's why we are here. And it would be a last-ditch effort, essentially, to see whether or not the United States can survive over the next 10 or 20 years with its liberties intact. It's no good just the landmass being there and people being in it. If everything that the United States of America was built on is gone, it's torn down. The freedoms, the liberties, the rights, if all of that is gone, what does that mean? Is it still the United States of America then? Or will it end up being the People's Republic of something? I don't know. But I do know that unless people really start waking up to reality, how controlled the game actually is, nothing's going to change. Anyway, I'll leave it there insofar as what I've got to say. But the video clip will follow on, so keep watching. Thank you very much for watching this video. Take good care of yourselves, and God bless you all.
The future is urban. By 2030, urban areas are expected to grow by 1.4 billion, with that growth occurring almost entirely in the developing world. Cities will account for 60% of the world's population and 70% of the world's GDP. The urban environment will be the locus where drivers of instability will converge. It is the domain that by the year 2030, 60% of urban dwellers will be under the age of 18. The cities that grow the fastest will be the most challenged as resources become constrained and illicit networks fill the gap left by overextended and undercapitalized governments. The risk of natural disasters compounded by geography, climate changes, unregulated growth, and substandard infrastructure intersect to frustrate humanitarian relief. Growth will magnify the increasing separation between rich and poor. Religious and ethnic tensions will be a defining element in the social landscape. Stagnation will coexist with unprecedented development as impoverishment, slums, and shantytowns rapidly expand alongside modern high-rises, technological advances, and ever-increasing levels of prosperity. This is the world of our future. It is one we are not prepared to effectively operate within, and it is unavoidable. Megacities are complex systems where people and structures are compressed together in ways that defy both our understanding of city planning and military doctrine. It is an ecosystem that demands a highly agile and adaptive force to successfully operate within. Infrastructures will vary radically, with concentrations of high-tech transportation, globally connected air and seaports, contemporary water, utilities, and waste disposal intermixed with open landfills, overburdened sewers, polluted water, and makeshift power grids. Living habitats will extend from the high-rise to the ground-level cottage to subterranean labyrinths, each defined by its own social code and rule of law. Social structures will be equally challenged if not dysfunctional, as historic ways of life clash with modern living, ethnic and racial differences are forced to live together, and criminal networks offer opportunity for the growing mass of unemployed. This becomes the nervous system of non-nation-state, unaligned individuals and organizations that live and work in the shadows of national rule. Where physical domains can be seen, digital domains will have limitless potential to breed and expand without limit. Digital security and trade will be increasingly threatened by sophisticated illicit economies and decentralized syndicates of crime to give adversaries global reach at an unprecedented level. This will add to the complexities of human targeting, as a proportionally smaller number of adversaries intermingle with a larger and increasing number of citizens. The scale and density of these domains is daunting. In a city of 10 million, where you hold the support of 99% of the population, the remaining 1% represents a threat of 100,000. It is an environment of convergence, hidden amongst the enormous scale and complexity of the megacity. These are the future breeding grounds, incubators, and launching pads for adversaries and hybrid threats. Linked globally, these are man-made labyrinths that provide refuge and movement across the vast sections of these cities where alternate forms of governance have taken control. The advice of doctrine, from Sun Tzu to current field manuals, has provided two fundamental options. Avoid the cities, or establish a cordon to either wait out the adversary or drain the swamp of non-combatants and engage the remaining adversaries in high-intensity conflict within. Even our counterinsurgency doctrine, honed in the cities of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan, is inadequate to address the sheer scale of population in the future urban reality. From the streets of Aachen to the Citadel and Way, we have defeated adversaries who attempted to use urban terrain to their advantage. Urban conflict is written deep into the Army's histories. But in tomorrow's conflict, these megacities are orders of magnitude greater in complexity, and our current options do not meet strategic ends. Our future operations must allow us to rapidly return the city to the people. They will be too large and complex to isolate or cordon in their entirety, yet our soldiers will have to operate within these ecosystems with minimal disruption and flow. Our current and past strategies can no longer hold. We are facing environments that the masters of war never foresaw. We are facing a threat that requires us to redefine doctrine and the force in radically new and different ways. The future Army will confront a highly sophisticated urban-centric threat that will require that urban operations become the core requirement for the future land force. The threat is clear. Our direction remains to be defined. The future is urban.